Fireside Tales. Hello, I'm Merlin, Mililli. Welcome to my fireside, where I tell weird tales within tales. And I drink coffee. I drink coffee from my skull mug. Because I'm a deadhead. And every week here at Fireside Tales, so far, I tell the story of the Grateful Dead, as it was told to me by a deadhead by a fire. Every week we discuss, I just realized this strap was hanging here. Every week we discuss reincarnation. And this season we've been discussing my first life as a human being. I have, since I was a teenager, I've had access to a place called the Akashic Library, or the Akashic Records, or the Acacia. It's an ancient library, but it's not a physical place or physical library even. It's a meditative place. And you get there only through meditation. And every week I've been discussing what I have read in my book, in the Akashic Records. I have access to the Akashic Records, and what they are is it's a library where every soul has a book. And each book tells where and when and who that soul has been. So my book is big and old and dusty. And each life in my book connects to the other in this weird way. And I found all these different threads. I've been a lot of people, and apparently that's not necessarily a good thing. It's not a bad thing either, really. It's a strange thing, because most people haven't probably been reincarnated as many times as me. One of my threads is that throughout pretty much every life, I've been a medium and a psychic. Whether or not I knew it or understood it is a whole nother animal, but it has carried over from one life to the next, and I have the ability to talk to spirits in this life. And the spirits say that reincarnation happens when a person is murdered. You get a chance to come back if you're killed unjustly or prematurely, or just murder. It seems to be the only reason why you really seem to come back. So it's brought up an interesting thing in some of my lives where it's not general knowledge that I was murdered, but it throws an interesting wrench into the machine that is, our history books. His story is only told by him, and the story is told by all of us. So I try to get at telling the story. And one of the things I found in my book that is weird is this watermark. And my first lives seem to, before this watermark, the lives before it they're very long, strangely long, like thousands of years long, like it doesn't make sense long. But I don't know if you've seen the carved stone. Apparently Darius the Great carved it. And it's an ancient kings list. And the kings at first on that list also have strangely long lives. And like thousands of years. And people are like, oh, it must be a typo. I'm like, well, it's carved into stone. Generally, they don't carve typos into stone. It's just not really a thing. So, I'm going to get at telling the story of the Grateful Dead. And then we'll talk a bit more about the Akashic Records and meditation and spirit guides. And I have roofers on my roof today, and I have signs on either door that says recording, please do not disturb. Hopefully they abide by these signs. But if something makes a loud noise or a strange noise or someone knocks, you know why. They're not on my roof. They're on the neighbor's roof. Just really close, though. Once, long, long ago, there was a traveler. She traveled far and wide by foot. That long ago. And one day, she happens into this village. And she'd seen many things before. She'd never seen a scene like this. There were all these people standing around and they were squabbling, arguing. Causing general havoc. And they weren't just squabbling people. They were squabbling people who were squabbling over a dead body. They were squabbling over who was going to pay his debts and who was going to bury him and who was going to pay for that. So the traveler thought this was just disgusting. And she stopped the townspeople from arguing. And she paid the dead man's debts. And she paid for a proper burial. And she prayed over the dead man's grave. And she traveled on. And then one day, decades later, this same traveler from the beginning of the story happens upon a life or death situation in which someone just comes out of nowhere and swoops her up and saves her life. She's flabbergasted. She says, "Thank you so much for saving my life. I can't believe you saved my life. Who are you? Where did you come from? Why did you save my life?" And the person explains simply, "I am the Grateful Dead." It's a story about reincarnation. We talk about reincarnation here at Fireside Tales. It's not a corpse that saves the traveler's life, because corpses don't save lives. It's not a zombie. It's not that kind of story. It's an old Buddhist story, and the Buddhists believe in reincarnation. It's written in Sanskrit, and I actually had it told to me by a deadhead who actually read it in Sanskrit because he could read and write in Sanskrit. So he told us the story. I add my little flair. I make the traveler a she. At first I didn't. When I first started making the show, it was a he, and that's how I'd heard it was a he, but I changed it because the traveler could totally be a she. Could be back then dressed as a he to travel, but still, that doesn't really matter. Her pronouns are she, her. So, nonetheless, I've been meditating for a really long time, and I've discussed smudging before you meditate, so we'll talk about that. We've also talked about fire safety here at Fireside Tales, and it's here in California particularly of the utmost importance to make sure you're safe by your fire and you're not stupid. Don't be stupid. Smokey the Bear won't say that to you, but I will. Don't be stupid. This is sage. It's a smudge stick. Sage is a purifying, cleansing herb when it's burnt. Most cultures believe that it cleanses, particularly Native American cultures. I happen to have a little native running through my veins. But I also am safe about fires. I have a cauldron of water here. My cast iron kettle's filled with water, and we try to be very safe about our smudging and our fires here in California. But I could just get away with not having a fire, because there's always fire somewhere here in California. But I also have taught you how to ground, where you breathe out your negative energy. And you breathe in positive energy, think something positive, until you breathe out positive energy. I like to do that before any readings, any meditations. That way you get the most positive results from your readings or your meditations. I started meditating with a meditation that led me to meet my spirit guides. And I think it's important when you're meditating, especially apparently when you're going to someplace like the Akashic Records. A, you have to have a key. B, you have to go with your spirit guides. I've only gone with mine. They take me. I don't really, they show me where the door is. Otherwise I really wouldn't know. So when I first met my spirit guides, I was a teenager. But when I first started this meditation, I didn't know that it was to meet your spirit guides. A friend of mine just introduced a whole group of us to meditation. So he walked us through a guided meditation that he'd done before. And my mother in this life, my mother, she's still alive now. I think last time I spoke with her on the phone, I think she wanted credit for meditation that I do. And she never taught me meditation, so she's going around telling people that she taught me these meditations. She did not. So I just want to clear that. And she never taught me meditation. And I'm not sure she knows how to meditate at this level anyway. But Jason Hofflinger taught me and a group of people this particular meditation that led me to meet my spirit guides. But he got it from a person or a book who got it from a book, person who got it from a book, because I later found the book. And it's a book on how to meet your spirit guides. So my mother in this life never taught me meditation, but my mother in my first life most certainly did. And we've been discussing my first life, and I was an ancient Mayan about 10,000 years ago named Little Flower. I told you all that I was born in a field of flowers. My mother was a healer. My father was a healer. My father was the chief of my tribe. We were Mayans. Am I moving too quickly? That was a really fast summation, but that's what if that was too fast, watch our first and second episodes of this season, or the second episode of last season, all of which cover Little Flower a little bit. And this whole season we're talking about Little Flower. So she had some siblings. I don't know if they were all named Little something, but I know she had a sister named Little Feather, which is kind of interesting. Her father was known as Eagle the Lucky, and this was all in their language. Her mother's name was the word for singing in their language, so it would be like Carol, similar to Carol. So For Little Flower, meditation was not just important, it was key. They, Little Flower and her mother apparently made the first calendars. Her father mined the first turquoise, and they made the first calendars out of the first turquoise. And they are good calendars. You could still use them today, except they kind of end right. Well, they end in 2112. I don't think they end in 2012. I can read them for some reason. I don't really understand how, but I can read these things. So they don't predict doom and gloom, by the way. It's just an end of a cycle. It's actually the prediction of the end of a dark age, which is good. The end of a dark age is good. That means we're pulling into a golden age, which is great. We don't need the dark age. It's just that, they only had so much turquoise and could only see so far into the future. They never predicted doom and gloom. That wasn't their thing. So both of Little Flower's parents were healers. And back then, meditation was huge in healing. And now it really should be, because they were better healers than what we have going on these days. And they had less disease and less, they lived thousands of years. I don't even know how. I really can't explain that. And I'll just write it off as one of the reasons why this show is weird. So the watermark, I think, in my book, marks the Great Flood. It also seems to mark when time changed from BC to AD. So, recorded time versus unrecorded time, or... So, I think after the flood, I know after the flood, I lived much shorter lives, according to my book. So I find that interesting. And apparently, during the Great Flood, I stayed alive. I was on a boat. None of us really understood what was happening. And I guess I ended up in Scotland because it was the only thing sticking out of the water. The whole continent of Europe was under water, except Scotland, because they have such high mountains. Very tippy tops of their mountains were sticking out of the water, and that was it. It was like a frightening scene for me, because I know that there were things there. I remember the things that were there. And then, the water receded and the things were there again, but so I don't really read my book. I sort of absorb it, and I'll go to a certain section of it. Like for Little Flower, I go to the very beginning. And I just touch it. And then I have a memory. And I can go from the very beginning of her life to the very end of her life and remember the whole thing in as much detail as I really want to, as far as, I have to stay there and meditate that long. I'm a mom, so that doesn't always work out for me. So, I meditate for as long as I can, and I get as much information as I can every time I go. I don't always look into Little Flower, but lately I've been looking into Little Flower so that I can relay to you what I see in my book. I see this life, this childhood in particular, as my best ever. So the rumors about the Mayans doing weird things to their children and making their heads weird shapes and all that nonsense is not true. it's nonsense, and it's not real, and at least I haven't found it to be. I didn't have any bad experiences in this life, except at the very end, sort of. And I'll describe that at the end of the season. But this life, I became a healer and a teacher, and I grew quite old as Little Flower. Because, like I said, I lived these really long lives at first. And so So meditation was really important for the culture of the ancient Mayans. That was how we figured out the great year, which is what the calendars are based on. That was how we figured out everything. And we learned quite a bit. And we were on the money. The Mayan calendar is still rather accurate if you can read it. I can read it. Most people forget that first 100 years or to count it, and a lot of people started freaking out in 2012 because they thought the Mayan calendar predicted the end of the world, and that isn't true. That isn't what the Mayan calendars predict, and it's 2112 in which they end. So they still haven't ended. That's how, my mother and I made these calendars 10,000 years ago, and they still haven't ended. Pretty impressive calendar. And they haven't been wrong. they haven't been wrong. That's the key there. So I remember this childhood being the best of all my lives. I remember this life being the best of all my lives. Like, when this particular life gets particularly difficult, I look to my life as Little Flower to relax me and let me know that, in some realm, everything is okay. And I'm going to be okay. It reassures me that everything's going to be okay. We didn't have wood burning stoves. We didn't have kettles. We didn't have running water. We didn't have we didn't have any modern convenience. We didn't have cameras. We didn't have phones. We didn't have phones with cameras. We didn't have cars. We didn't have airplanes. We didn't have anything, and we were fine. We had each other. We had meditation. We had the stars, the mountains. We had water, air, pure water, pure air, because this was 10,000 years ago. Man hadn't polluted everything yet, nor had they conquered South America, North America. It was quite lovely and peaceful in Peru then. I'm not sure about the rest of the world. And for, thousands of years. I just lay about in flowers that I was born in for hours and hours. Sometimes I just go back and do that just because it's so lovely. In comparison to my current situations, sometimes I just have to leave the current situation. And that's another thing meditation is good for, escapism, to get away. Sometimes you just need a different perspective. Meditation can provide that. But also, you could get so much from meditation. I've read so many books, but I still hold to that I get more out of one meditation than I do out of hundreds of books. I calculated based on how many books I read per year, and I've read now well over 1,000 books. And I still think that one meditation, you can get more information from one good meditation than you can from 1,000 books. And it's real and true. The meditation that led me to meet my spirit guides goes through your childhood closet. Now you should be smudged and grounded. And you go through your childhood closet. And when you get to the other side, on your feet, you feel wood. And then you find a wooden staircase. It's a spiral staircase. It goes downward. You go down the staircase. Should I just go with this and let you do a guided meditation? Has anybody jived with that? Should I continue? I could continue. When you get to the bottom of the staircase, you feel sand, warm sand on your feet. And you walk until you find the water's edge. When you find the water's edge, look around for a boat. It should be a simple wooden boat right there just for you. Get in, sit down, be careful, and see where the boat takes you. To leave, you just open your eyes whenever you're ready. In case anybody was going with that and closed their eyes and decided to meditate, there you go. I've been meaning to do a guided meditation for that meditation. guess I just did, but I should probably record one for everyone. I'll get to that. Oh, I have so much going on right now. I'm in the studio recording my new album, Potty Mouth, which comes out October 1st. I just put out September 1st. This is 2022. September 1st, I just put out Enchanting, which is an album of all my chants. Potty Mouth comes out October 1st, and that's an album of all my songs with swears in them. So, warning on that one, it might be offensive, and then again, it might not. And then November 1st, I have another album coming out, which is Sound View, which I've been consistently recording, and that's all my songs about where I grew up and my view of that place now from where I sit currently. So, next week we will discuss Little Flower in much more detail and more of her role as a healer for her tribe, and for the rest of the season, that's who we will be discussing, is Little Flower, and it gets weirder. So if you think her life was weird already, just wait. It gets weirder. So, every week here at Fireside Tales, I also have been singing David Crosby's Deja Vu. Only because I hadn't written a song yet. About reincarnation. And I believe that this song is about reincarnation. But I finally wrote a song about reincarnation. It's called Before, and it still needs some work. So today I'm going to play Deja Vu again, but this might be the last time. So here it goes. Got my pick, so I'm going to just play with my finger. If I had ever been here before, I would probably know just what to do. Don't you? If I had ever been here before and another time around the wheel, I would probably know just how to deal with all of you. And I feel like I've been here before. Feel like I've been here before, and you know it makes me wonder what's going on under the ground. Do you know? Don't you wonder? What's going on down under you? La da da, la da da, la da da, da, la da da da, la. We have all been here before. 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 So maybe next week I'll share before with you. But this week I just didn't have it ready. But I did write it, so that's a step in the right direction. I thought my elbow was going to catch fire. It got really hot. So that's it for me today. And catch us next week, where we talk a little more about Little Flower, and we will definitely get weird. So, thanks for watching. Have a weird and wonderful weekend. A Mililli Studios production.